Hey, this will be the late surgery guide for Libra Cup. I debated on actually making this guide because honestly, late surgeries are a little difficult to run in this CM. Reason being is that this meta is pretty much completely defined by straightaway spurt because of the long last spurt that's on a straight. And Let's Pump Some Iron unfortunately just happens a little bit late. So late surgeries are kind of left with a bunch of acceleration options that are just not the greatest. We'll go over a little bit more on whether or not you should build one or whether you want to build one a little bit later. But they have a couple of build problems, namely that they don't have any innate recoveries, but there's ways to solve and work around that. Are they easy to make? They have the same requirements as end closers. I suggest looking over that video or looking through the PowerPoint for it. The only difference is that they require Slick Surge and Let's Pump Some Iron instead of Straightaway Spurt. And they of course require mid-race positioning skill. The beta lead required still a long S, and some nice to haves. Late surgers really like additional acceleration skills more than anything else. Mid-race positioning skills can be a little troublesome because you'll get knocked out of 6th place. But there's a few ways to work around that as well, because the end closers in Wales will also have a bunch of mid-race positioning skills, and you're probably going to get passed by them. So, they don't have any stat debuffs. The only note is, and this is sort of an addendum to the end closer guide, is that you kind of want 1,000 stamina if you want to survive a rush state. So 900 stamina works if you don't get rushed, if anything bad happens, which honestly in late surgery, their main advantage is that you won't have many late surgeries at all. So you won't really have to worry about it. But it's there. Just add another 100 stamina if you can. Your gold recoveries, you need 2 of them. Late surgeries is really tough to find any. Sleeping Lying, sorry, is end closer only. I should have edited this slide. But your only options are Swinging Maestro, Breath of Fresh Air, Cooldown, and there's Grass Wonder. Fantasy has her own version of it. So acceleration skills. Compared to Straightaway Spurt, you see all of the options that late surgers have access to have some slight problems. So Let's Pump Some Iron happens about 50% of the way through, but it's very consistent. On your left and No Stopping Me, just like the options for End Closer. No Stopping Me happens incredibly late, but is incredibly potent. And on your left, which is the Slick Surge, happens very late as well. So the most important is Let's Pump Some Iron, followed by Slick Surge and No Stopping Me at about equal priority. Mid-race positioning skills are the same as end closers, except you're using late surger corners and late surger straightaways. The advantage of late surgers, one of their few advantages this CM, is they have access to Fast and Furious, which is essentially a gambling version of Professor of Curvature. Professor of Curvature is basically a half-strength Fast and Furious, but Fast and Furious works about half the time. Considering that you're a late surgery, you're probably going to gamble anyway. So if your character, namely Summer Special Week, Grass Wonder Original, or Winning Ticket, you probably are going to pick up Fast and Furious over Professor of Curvature. Your goal as a late surge is to get into 6th place and get Let's Pump Some Iron. There really is not another way to victory. And it gets a little weird because the end closers may be in front of you, and there's not going to be many front runners, so you're kind of gambling on really team comp of people. I would almost say long S is required because you're fighting end closers, and end closers have additional velocity at the end of the race. So if you have long S, it really gives you the chance to match that speed, and you're going to need it. The late surgers especially are not carried by straightaway spurt, so you don't really have any room to mess up. But your requirements are generally a little bit easier because you're looking for recoveries. You're not looking for a single skill that's only found on 2 cards. I would say, especially on late surgers, get an extra white recovery if you have the points and you have all other requirements. Again, 3 recoveries is still luxury, 3 gold recoveries. I don't really know anyone except Grass Wonder Fantasy that is going to be able to get 3 gold recoveries, but if you're able to pop in an additional white recovery, it greatly helps to stop just the 85% proc rate from screwing you out of a run. Just like end closers, green overcaps are good for the same reason. And late surgers especially, end closers actually have this option too. It's just straightaway spurt is a much better excel skill, but because we need to gamble in a late surger to beat the end closers, Highlander is an option. It is essentially a 50-50 excel skill that has a 55% chance of hurting you slightly and a 50% chance to give you some decent excel. So what it does is it goes and it picks a random uphill on the map, and then it gives you a standard wit check to proc it. So if it procs in any of the first 2 uphills, it's going to kill a pace down, and half the time, it's going to stop a pace down, but most times what happens is you get blocked and you actually lose positioning on it. What you want it to proc is in the late race. If it procs on this one right here, you get full effect, and if it procs on the third one, if it procs in the later half, you get some carryover acceleration. If it procs on the first half, you get almost nothing. So it's about a 40% chance of giving you a decent acceleration skill that happens at the start, which is very critical. So this is kind of the way a Highlander plus a Let's Pump Some Iron kind of matches a spurt, but it's still almost not enough. It's still a little bit copium. Late surgers need an end-race speed skill. A lot of them actually have inside scoop built in, as well as another advantage of the late surger is they have access to Rising Dragon, which is a consistent end-race speed skill. So a lot of times you will not need the gold ship. You never really needed it, but your luxury purchase is not really on the gold ship card, making you stop runs just from it deciding not to go on speed. Instead, you have a much more consistent card in Bamboo Memory as a whale option, and also a lot of late searchers just have it built in. Most Umas also have an end-race speed skill built in. You're going to probably need 2 of them to combat end closer speed, but even 1 can make you win a couple races. So let's go and talk about some Umas. The Umas on screen right now, I'm not going to really talk about because late surgers, as I said, are a weaker, honestly, they're a weaker position. So El Condor Pasa, Rice Shower, Ogiri Cap, and Agnes Tachyon, they all can be run as late surgers. I highly suggest running them as pace chasers. Notably, Ogiri Cap does have Nimble Navigator built into her kit, but all 4 of these characters have innate cooldowns that are based on Pace Chaser, and it gives you a ton more flexibility, and they don't really give you anything special except shock value on running them late surger. The 4 on the right, if you own these characters on the right, you should be running them end closer. You can stretch them into late surger. Notably, Mayano Top Gun can be run in all 4 positions, but just end closer is so much more effective than late surger. If the character is able to be run as it, you should be running it as an end closer. And Mayano Top Gun gets all 4 acceleration skills built in the kit, and so she doesn't even have to RNG for spurt. There's honestly not much going for late surgers except for some late race skills that they have, some shock value, and also what I'll talk about at the end, which is end closer positioning. The decks you should be running for late surges just in general, just Umas in general for this, is if it has a stamina bonus, you should be running a 302R or a 311R, so that's 3 speed, 2 powers, so that you can help, the stamina bonus can help you with your stamina. If you have power, if you have power bonus, you can drop a power card and use 32R or 311R, or if you have speed bonus, if it's good enough, you can sometimes drop the speed card. I'm not going to go over it Uma by Uma because I'm grouping it, and honestly a lot of late surgers aren't that great this round, but these are the decks that you can use. The number 1 quote-unquote whale, even though I don't think whales will be running late surgers, option is Majiro Orion. The reason being is that you need as much acceleration as possible to counter spurt, and her innate Let's Pump Some Iron is twice as effective and has twice the duration as the inherited version of Let's Pump Some Iron. She does not have much built into her kit, though. The only thing she has is Slick Surge, which is gained from winning the classic Triple Crown. I do not suggest running Measure Orion, however, as a normal player. I'm sure you can get to it, but from my experience, the fact she doesn't have any innate recovery means you have to go either cooldown with Rice Shower, or you have to go and run vodka for Bofa. And also, her bonuses for stats are incredibly weird. 20% power with no stamina means that if you're running a double power build, you pretty much overcap on power and struggle on stamina and speed. And if you run a speed stamina build, for some reason, it's not for some reason, you start having trouble. The runs just don't go very well. So it requires you to run the less efficient 2-2-1 Rico or 3-1-1 Rico because you need that Rice Shower cooldown. So you kind of have a character that needs Rice Shower but also doesn't really need a power card. Can she be run? Certainly, but from my experience, a lot of times your runs will be glued from just randomly losing the Suzuki Show or the Japanese Derby, or especially the Kakuka Show. Her ultimate doesn't really carry her early game very well, so you're kind of just a stock horse running in the late surger or pace chaser position, and a lot of times you miss one of those races and the run is glue because you don't get Slick Surge. It's as simple as that. Some options you can run that have some glaring weaknesses are Grass Wonder, Original, Matekane Fukiharu, and Gold City. They all essentially kind of run as the same character. They have different stat bonuses, so just look at their stat bonus and supplement based on this chart right here if you need a guide for it. Otherwise, go by feel and go by whatever sparks you have. They essentially all have On Your Left or Slick Surge built into their kit, but they lack innate recoveries or Nimble Navigator. You can either get Nimble Navigator from parents, or if you're able to run a double power deck or a split deck, you run Rice or Super Creek, and you can run Vodka for Bofa if you want No Stopping Me as well. Grass Wonder Fantasy is a very interesting UMA, honestly, in this one. There may be some whale options and also some free-to-play options to gut max her. And the reason being is that she is the only late surger that has 3 innate recoveries. So you can go either with a high guts build, or you can go with a really low stamina build. We're talking 600, 700 stamina, because you're going to have 3 innate recoveries, and you can pick up a white and even more. A white recovery. It's a lot of skill points, but you can do some wacky stuff with her because she has her innate and 2 recoveries built in. She does not have Slick Surge and she does not have Nimble Navigator, so you can do the no-name career for Nimble Navigator. You can run Yukino Bijin for Nimble Navigator. You can also get Slick Surge from parents, or there is a build where you can run Nice Nature Wit because you do not need as much stamina. You can do a singular Wit card and do like a 3-0-1-0-1 Rico build. You can try it out if you own her. If you got her randomly from a thing, she is actually kind of decent just because she lives a long race. My favorite character to run in this CM for late surgers, and honestly I think the best character to run, and the one I would suggest, and everyone has her, it's Winning Ticket, and this may be a hot take, but this is the reason. She is by far the easiest, in my opinion, late surger to build. She will not be the strongest. Measure Orion will be the strongest. However, with late surgers, your main reason why you're running a late surgers is so you don't run 3 end closers. We'll go over that in a second, but if you're building a late surger, you want it to be as easy as possible so you don't waste as many runs as possible. So she has the best stat spread possible, which is 10% stam, 20% power. You can argue it's 20% stam, 10% power, but it's a moot point. It's about the same. Her build requires a 302 Rico, so you run 2 power cards. You run one of them being Rice Shower. You run 3 speed cards in Rico. You can also go the Super Creek build, but I think the Rice Shower build is easier. You will end the game with about 1200 speed, about 1100 power, and about 950 to 1050 stamina, as if you didn't even think about it. It's stupidly easy to get. So like I said, she has the best stat spread possible. You get Fast and Furious, which is a Gambit Professor of Curvature. And the only thing that's a little wacky with her is that all of her good skills, even though she has every single Late Surger good skill in the game, Slick Surge, Nimble Navigator, and Outer Swell, they're all on random events. Now, technically speaking, Ticket can just decide not to give you those events, but from my experience, you get both of them about 80% of the time, if not more. And what you do is you just have your borrow parent have one of them. So like I have a Nimble Navigator parent. You can also get an Uma Stand parent if you really want a high roll. But you can get a Nimble Navigator parent, and then that's on a parent as a backup. And you have Slick Surge randomly, and you have Nimble Navigator randomly, and you get Outer Swell for free because it's attached to the Slick Surge event. And you also get Hard Worker Fighter. It's a budget Rushing Gale. You shouldn't really pick that up. And she comes with Firm Conditions. So she essentially has every single skill you need. So you just need to get some skill points to buy it all. And you just need to get your innate recoveries. So her problem is no innate recoveries. But because she has Slick Surge and Nimble Navigator, you don't have to run vodka. You can just run rice for the cooldown. I had an infamous winning ticket run where it was just incredibly great. And then in late December, because you don't got to run the Arima Keenan, we had a 63-38 speed power to cap her out, and she failed that one and then proceeded to lose the Unity Finals, and now I'm sitting with a winning ticket that could have been the best winning ticket ever created, and now she is just kind of cope, to be honest. So in conclusion, late surges are worse than end closers. Should you build them? It is an option to build them that is decent, and the reason being is positioning. You do not want to run 3 end closers, in my opinion. You can. You are gambling on how well you build your end closers if you do that. What's going to happen in these races, if let's say there's 6 or 7 end closers in these whale lobbies, is that they're all going to be fighting with each other. They're going to be draining a lot of stamina from each other, and they're going to be vying for that 6th place position. If you start winning the battles of your end closers, you're not going to be in 6th place, and you're kind of going off a spurt only. And if you start losing them, it's the same thing. Then you're just trying to catch up to the other end closers. There's a lot of RNG involved. The way you mitigate it is you run one character that's not an end closer, and you do 2 ends plus 1 either pace or late surger. And late surgers are a little bit more high roll, and pace chasers are a little more consistently okay. But what this does is it pushes all the 6th place position back one more so that you get some Let's Pump Some Iron on your end closer. And also, it's kind of sets... it's a little weird to explain, but if there's a late surger, it helps pace down the end closers a little bit in the early game and the mid game. There's a lot of little tinkering things that I've done some races and seen. I can't really confirm. I've seen my gold ship do better with a late surger than me just running her with a Monotop gun and no other, nothing else besides those 2. But the same thing also happens when I run with a Rice Shower. So what I would suggest is pick one of your 3 characters and either make a late surger or a pace chaser. Their late surges, good thing is they're super easy to build if you get your 2 recoveries. That's about it. Burb out. If you run a late surger, good luck, because we need all the help we can get.